The forest woke slowly, as if reluctant to begin the day. Sunlight filtered through the dense canopy in thin golden shafts, dust motes drifting lazily in the beams like tiny drifting stars. A soft, humid breeze carried the scent of damp earth and fallen leaves, mixed with the sharp tang of wildflowers clinging to the undergrowth. Somewhere deep within the tangle of roots and vines, the faint gurgle of a stream echoed, harmonizing with the distant calls of hornbills and the rustle of hidden insects. It was a morning like many others, quiet, steady, and almost sacred in its rhythm. But for one mother leopard, the peace was a fragile veneer stretched over tension that hummed beneath the surface. She moved like liquid shadow, silent paws pressing against the leaf-strewn floor, tail twitching with careful precision. Her amber eyes swept the forest with measured vigilance, alert to every flicker of movement, every whisper of sound. A hawk cried somewhere above, and she lifted her head briefly, ears swiveling, nose twitching. Her cub was somewhere close, tumbling through the underbrush. And the tiny predator's playful energy was both a delight and a worry. One misstep, one careless sniff of something foreign, and danger could arrive in an instant. Still, she allowed herself a moment of admiration. Life, even in its perilous wildness, was beautiful. The cub emerged into a small clearing, all awkward limbs and unsteady paws. Bright eyes, still too large for its face, scanned the world with unreserved curiosity. Each fallen leaf, each fluttering butterfly, became a universe to explore. The cub pounced on a cluster of ants, watched them scatter, and then tumbled head over paws into a patch of soft moss, rolling over with a small squeal that was half delight, half surprise. The mother's eyes softened. She crouched low, hidden in the shadows of a nearby bush. This innocence, this freedom to explore, was fragile, precious, and she would protect it with every ounce of her being. Yet, even in the midst of this serene dance of life, the forest held hints of unease. A low growl reverberated from somewhere deeper, muffled by distance, but unmistakable. The wind shifted and carried a strange scent metal, unfamiliar, pungent, and threatening. She sniffed. Alert? There was a trap nearby. She had sensed it before, days ago. In glimpses of unnatural lines of metal hidden beneath the foliage, the faint smell of human activity carried on the breeze. Her heart quickened, muscles tensing. Every instinct screamed for caution. The cub, oblivious, padded closer to a clump of ferns. Beneath them, half hidden in shadow, gleamed the cold steel of a cage. A morsel of meat had been placed deliberately inside, and the smell had drifted just far enough to reach the cub's sensitive nose. Drawn by hunger and curiosity, it padded closer, nose twitching, ears perked. The mother's eyes narrowed, muscles taut as she stalked silently, moving through the undergrowth like smoke, ever closer, ready to intervene. She could feel the tension in the air, the forest holding its breath in anticipation. Then, with a faint metallic click, the trap sprang. The cub let out a startled yelp, a sound that cut sharply through the morning calm. Panic surged through the mother, a jolt of adrenaline that sharpened every sense. She lunged forward instinctively, but the cage's bars were unyielding. The cub clawed, scratched, and twisted inside, its small body trembling with fear. Its cries echoed through the clearing, bouncing off the trees and mossy rocks. And the mother froze for a heartbeat, heart hammering, mind racing. Every instinct screamed to charge, to attack, to tear down the cage, but the reality pressed against her. This was no ordinary predator to scare away. The metal, cold and merciless, mocked her strength. Time seemed to stretch, each second heavy with the weight of helplessness. She prowled around the cage, circling eyes blazing with a mix of panic and determination. The cub's cries grew louder, more frantic, and with each sound, the mother's mind raced. She could see the tiny claws gripping the bars, hear the frantic panting, smell the fear mingling with the iron scent of blood and rust from small scratches. A bead of sweat ran down her temple, though the humid forest clung to her fur, soaking her muscles in damp tension. The air felt thick, heavy with the scent of rain yet to come, as if the forest itself mourned the cub's entrapment. For a fleeting moment, she paused. She pressed her muzzle to the ground, sniffing, listening. Every sound amplified, the patter of insects, the distant rush of a river, the subtle creak of vines swaying with the wind. She mapped the cage with her mind, tracing every line, every gap, searching for a weakness. a strategy, anything that might save her child. The forest, once a sanctuary, had become a labyrinth of obstacles and threats. Even the birds above seemed to watch in silent worry, their calls muted and uncertain. Then the cub wriggled again, panic-stricken and small, every movement echoing a plea she could not ignore. She crouched, muscles coiled like springs, tail flicking with impatient intensity. Her eyes softened briefly as she caught sight of the tiny, trembling body of her cub, and an overwhelming wave of maternal love and fury surged through her. There would be no hesitation now. Whatever it took, she would fight, think, and claw her way through. The morning light, once gentle and peaceful, now felt like a stage for a test of strength, instinct, and determination. Rain began to fall, fine at first, then heavier, the droplets spattering against leaves, clinging to fur, and dripping from the canopy in a rhythmic drumbeat. The forest smelled richer now, earthy and alive, and the storm's approach mirrored the tension in her chest. She prowled closer, tail swishing, ears pricked. Her amber eyes met the cub's wide, frightened gaze through the bars. And in that moment, the world shrank to two souls, mother and child, bound together by instinct, love, and fear. The forest seemed to hold its breath. Above, a branch quivered as a sudden gust shook the trees. Somewhere in the distance, the low growl of a predator rumbled again. But it was drowned by the cub's frantic yelp and the mother's growl, low and threatening. The cage glinted under the streaks of sunlight, now muted by the rain, cold and unyielding. The mother's resolve hardened. She would not fail. Not today. Not ever. The forest, the sky, the rushing wind, all of it bore witness to a mother's promise. The morning, once calm and gentle, had shifted. It was no longer the soft sanctuary it had seemed. It had become a crucible, testing instinct against fear, love against helplessness, nature against human cruelty. And at the heart of it, the cub's cries rang out, piercing, desperate. An unbroken cord that tied the mother's every thought and movement. Shadows clung to the undergrowth, rain-slick leaves glistened, and the forest seemed both alive and silent, watching, waiting for the next heartbeat in this unfolding drama. The mother leopard crouched in the shadows, tail flicking, eyes blazing, muscles taut like springs. Her cub, trembling and small, clawed at the unforgiving steel, and the forest held its breath. Above, the clouds darkened, and the first real drops of rain fell in earnest. The calm of the morning was gone, replaced by the urgent tension of a story just beginning. And in that charged silence, a single truth burned brighter than the storm. A mother's love is the fiercest force of all. Rain pelted the forest in relentless sheets, turning the once gentle soil into slick, clinging mud. The wind whipped through the trees, bending branches and shaking down leaves in a constant drumming cascade. In the center of a small clearing, the steel bars of a hidden trap glistened under the gray sky. Inside, the cub shrieked, small claws scraping desperately at the metal, eyes wide with terror, wet fur plastered to its trembling frame. Each cry cut sharply through the roar of the storm, echoing between trunks and vines, carrying a raw, piercing fear that seemed to vibrate through the entire forest. The mother leopard prowled around the cage, muscles taut, eyes blazing amber in the dim, storm-darkened light. Her tail lashed back and forth in sharp arcs, mirroring the rising fury and panic coiling in her chest. Every instinct screamed to tear the trap apart, yet each approach revealed the cruel strength of the steel bars. She tried biting at a corner, scraping at the latch with clawed paws, pressing her body against the metal in a desperate push, but it would not yield. The cub's cries grew higher, sharper, more frantic with every failed attempt, and a pang of helplessness struck her heart, cold and unforgiving. The storm seemed to grow louder, as if the elements themselves had joined in her anguish. Rainwater pooled in depressions on the forest floor, soaking her fur and the cub's tiny body, while wind tossed branches like whips, snapping twigs near her ears and sending her ears flicking in irritation and fear. A distant rumble of thunder rolled through the canopy, and for a moment the leopard froze, muscles coiled, listening. Somewhere beyond the clearing, human voices approached, footsteps sloshing through mud, carrying the faint echo of commands or conversation. She paused, amber eyes narrowing, weighing the dangers. The humans were unaware of her presence, unaware of her cub caught in the cage. Attack could save her child or provoke a disaster that neither she nor the cub could survive. The cub twisted again, tiny body, writhing claws scraping uselessly against unyielding metal. Its eyes locked on hers, wide and pleading, and her chest tightened with fear and love combined. The bond between them pulsed through every heartbeat. She could not, would not, leave it there. But the humans approached, their voices carrying over the wind and rain, and caution flickered across her mind. She crouched low, head brushing the ground, ears flattened, eyes calculating. Instinct warred with reason. A misstep could doom her cub. She could feel her muscles trembling, every sinew straining. As the storm and her desperation merged into a single, all-consuming force, then she moved carefully, cunningly. She circled the cage like a shadow of the forest itself, pressing her body against the wet leaves, seeking a weakness. Her teeth sank into the corners. Her claws scraped at hinges and joints, every movement deliberate and precise. The cub flinched and cried with each scrape, and she growled low in her throat, the sound vibrating with fury and fear. The rain ran down her fur in rivulets, plastering her coat against hard, rippling muscles. Her movements were swift, yet methodical. Each attempt testing the cage, each swipe calculated, each bite measured. And still, the steel would not give. The wind howled through the trees, rattling the canopy above, and a sharp gust carried the faint metallic smell of blood mixed with rain. The cub's cries rose, piercing and frantic, and for the first time, the mother allowed herself a flicker of despair. She pressed her body against the bars, raking with claws, biting at rusted corners, striking again and again. But the trap resisted her strength. Her ears twitched at every sound. The crack of a branch, a rustle in the underbrush, the approach of human voices. Panic clawed at her chest, but fury burned hotter. She could not, would not, fail. Time seemed to stretch, as if the storm itself had slowed. Each drop of rain, a hammer against her resolve. The cub's cries melded with the roar of wind and rain, creating a chaotic symphony of fear and urgency. She shifted tactics, pressing her paws against the cage floor, trying to tip it, to loosen it in some way. She circled again, ears pinned, eyes scanning the clearing for any advantage, any leverage. The forest blurred in the torrential rain, but her mind sharpened. Every thought focused entirely on freeing her child. Then a sudden flash of insight struck. A small space at the back of the cage, partially hidden under mud and rain-soaked leaves, offered a possible weakness. Heart hammering, she lunged, teeth clamping on the corner, claws raking with all her might. The cub's cries rose to a high pitch of terror and hope, and she froze for a heartbeat, feeling the tiny body shudder in fear and anticipation. She had one chance, one precise moment, to act before the humans arrived. Before the storm overwhelmed the clearing, before the cub lost hope, muscles straining and claws sinking deep. She twisted, pressed, and yanked with all her weight. Rain sluiced over her fur, turning the world to a blur of gray and green. Her growl was deep, guttural, almost pleading, a voice of fury, desperation, and love, all in one. The cub clawed at the cage, encouraged by her movements, responding with the faintest shred of hope. Every second stretched into an eternity, the storm's fury echoing the urgency of her heart. Until the metal groaned under the strain. A sudden snap rang out, startling birds into flight from the nearby branches, and the cage shifted just enough for the cub to twist free. It stumbled, wet and trembling, and the mother leaped immediately, brushing against its small body with nuzzles, licking its fur to calm the shivering frame. Relief surged through her, violent and overwhelming, yet she remained tense, tail flicking, ears twitching. The storm was still raging, and the humans were close. But for now, the cub was alive. Her amber eyes swept the clearing, scanning for new threats, muscles still coiled. Ready to protect, the cub pressed itself against her. Trembling but alive, eyes wide and shining with both terror and trust. The mother lowered her body to shelter it as best she could, rain soaking them both. The forest around them alive with the roar of wind and the dripping rhythm of water from the trees. The storm began to soften slightly, but the danger was far from gone. Her gaze flicked toward the faint human voices, distant yet encroaching, and a low growl rumbled in her throat. The forest seemed to exhale around them, the rain tapping like a drum on leaves and branches. The wind, whispering a story of survival, courage, and the fierce, unyielding bond between mother and child. For a heartbeat, the mother and cub were still wet and trembling, the storm and chaos pressing in from all sides. The forest watched silently, as if honoring the struggle and resilience displayed in the clearing. The mother's chest heaved, muscles tense, eyes never leaving her cub. Around them, the forest smelled of wet earth and rain, of moss and mud, of life clinging stubbornly to each breath. And in that stillness, in the eye of the storm, a single truth shone brighter than fear. In the wild, love and determination can bend even the harshest forces of nature, if only for a fleeting, precious moment. Chapter 3. The storm had not yet fully passed, but the rain had softened to a gentle, steady patter that whispered through the dense forest canopy. The leaves glistened with water, droplets sliding down emerald surfaces and falling in tiny, sparkling arcs to the ground. Mud clung to the forest floor, to roots and fallen branches, and the smell of wet earth rose in a rich, earthy perfume that mingled with the faint scent of rain-soaked fur. In the small clearing, the cage still stood, stubborn and cold. But now it was under siege by a force it could not reckon with. A mother's relentless love. The mother leopard crouched low, muscles trembling with exertion, amber eyes blazing with determination. Each growl that rumbled from her throat vibrated through the wet earth. A declaration of intent, a promise that no steel bars could break. She had circled, scratched, clawed, and bit, testing the trap with a precision born from desperation. Now, in a final, calculated push, she pressed her weight against the cage at the one weak corner she had discovered. Rain poured over her slick fur, cascading down her spine, but she did not falter. Her claws dug into mud, teeth clamped onto the bars, and her muscles coiled like springs. Every heartbeat, every breath, was synchronized with the goal she had lived for since her cub's cries first pierced the morning dot inside. The cub shrieked, tiny body pressed against the cold. Unforgiving metal, its fur was soaked and matted, eyes wide and glimmering with tears of fear. It pawed frantically at the bars, claws scraping, shaking with each convulsive attempt to escape. The mother's growl deepened, low and resonant, vibrating through the cage and reaching the cub's ears like a lifeline. She pressed harder, twisting, shifting, using every ounce of strength and cunning she possessed. Then, with a sudden metallic groan that echoed through the clearing, the corner of the cage gave way. The cub flinched, eyes wide, and in the next heartbeat, it stumbled free. The mother leaped forward instantly, sweeping the trembling cub into her embrace. She pressed her muzzle to its head, licking and nuzzling, a cascade of warmth and reassurance against the wet, shivering body. Her paws circled protectively, ears flicking toward every sound in the forest. Eyes alert for threats, yet her attention never wavered from the small, fragile life in her care. The cub pressed into her, legs splayed wet, fur clinging. But the fear in its eyes slowly began to melt away in the heat of maternal protection. Nearby, human observers froze in silent awe, witnessing a raw display of instinct and love that surpassed anything they had ever imagined. They watched as the mother's muscles rippled under slick fur, as amber eyes blazed with a fierceness that no cage, no human hands could contain. In that moment, they realized the rules of the wild were not theirs to command. The power of love, of maternal instinct, was something the forest had always known, and they were mere spectators to its force. Voices were hushed, movements slowed, as if the humans themselves understood that to intervene further would be to disrupt something sacred. The rain began to ease, leaving a sheen of water over the leaves and trunks, each droplet catching the muted sunlight breaking through the clouded sky. The mother lowered her cub to the muddy ground briefly, letting it regain its balance. Tiny paws pressed into wet earth, legs shaking, and the cub blinked, taking in the world anew, guided by the steady presence of its mother. She nudged it gently, tail flicking reassuringly, and together they moved, stepping carefully through the mud and debris. Each paw left an imprint, a fleeting mark of survival, a small testament to the bond that had carried them through the storm as they disappeared into the forest's embrace, their silhouettes merging with the shadows of towering trees. The clearing remained silent, but for the soft drip of residual rain from leaves above. The storm had passed, leaving behind the smell of wet earth and the gentle rustle of recovering leaves. Birds began to emerge again, timidly at first, then in chorus, reclaiming the forest with song and fluttering wings. Somewhere in the distance, a hornbill cried, its voice soaring above the canopy, as if heralding a return to balance. The mother and cub moved slowly, wet fur shining in the soft light, eyes alert but beginning to relax. Every step was a quiet victory, a reclamation of freedom earned through courage, intelligence, and unyielding love. The cub leaned against her, trusting completely, its small body still trembling but no longer consumed by terror. Around them, the forest pulsed with life, recovering from the storm, resilient and enduring. A witness to the struggle and triumph that had just unfolded. Finally, the mother paused beneath a large fig tree, broad leaves sheltering them from the last remnants of rain. She lowered herself to the ground, allowing the cub to nuzzle against her chest, licking and pressing its small muzzle into her fur. The rain-slicked canopy above framed the scene, light breaking through in golden streaks that danced across moss and mud, illuminating the mother's sleek coat and the cub's small shivering frame. In that quiet, suspended moment, the world seemed to hold its breath. Survival was not just about strength or speed, it was about courage, love, and instinct, all intertwined in ways humans rarely witnessed. The humans remained a respectful distance away, silent, their eyes reflecting awe and a newfound reverence for the wild. They had come, perhaps, expecting a rescue or an observation of human skill, but instead they had witnessed something older, deeper, and far more powerful, the unbreakable bond between mother and child, a force stronger than steel and fear. They understood, without words, that nature's lessons were not learned through interference but through quiet observation, humility, and respect. The mother shifted slightly, nudging the cub along, and together they moved deeper into the forest, disappearing into the shadowed undergrowth where light and leaves danced together in an endless interplay. The rain ceased completely, leaving the forest alive with dripping foliage, glistening roots, and the soft, earthy aroma of renewal. Sunlight began to filter through the canopy more fully, painting patches of gold across the wet forest floor, illuminating the world as it recovered. At last, the mother and cub paused at the edge of a small clearing, the cub's tiny paws sinking into the soft earth, fur still damp but gleaming. They looked back briefly, amber eyes and glimmering black eyes meeting a silent acknowledgement of the ordeal they had endured. Then, together, they turned fully to the forest, stepping into the shadows and foliage, leaving behind only the faint trail of wet paw prints. The storm, the cage, the fear-all were behind them now. What remained was survival, trust, and a bond that no force of human hands or steel could ever sever. Above them, the canopy stretched endlessly, sun breaking fully through the clouds, illuminating the forest in a patchwork of light and shadow. Birds sang, insects hummed, and somewhere far below, water trickled over stones, a gentle reminder that life continued, relentless and beautiful. The mother pressed close to her cub, guiding it, protecting it, teaching it in silence the rhythms of the wild. In that quiet aftermath, a single truth resonated through the forest. Love, courage, and instinct could bend even the cruelest trials, leaving behind lessons of awe, respect, and the enduring strength of life. The cub nestled closer, purring softly, and the mother lowered her head, amber eyes softening as she gazed at the small, trusting life in her care. The forest seemed to exhale, a world restored to balance, alive and full of quiet, enduring truth. The story of the morning's terror had ended, but the lesson it left behind, a testament to maternal love and survival against impossible odds, would linger forever in the rhythm of the wild.